My name is Michael Strumsky, and this is my podcast, People More Interesting Than Me. Each episode, I'll interview a person with a different background to try to understand what circumstances, family, or tragedy has made them into the individual they are today. Enjoy. Well, thank you for being on today.
Of course.
Being on today, it sounds like I'm running a day show. So you're from Stanton, Virginia, originally, correct?
Yep.
And what about your family? I guess I didn't know about that. Like if your family's originally from the area too.
So my mom is originally from Stanton, grew up in Stanton, and my dad is originally from North Carolina. I don't know how he ended up in Virginia. Probably because my mom was there. I don't even remember. I don't know how they met, honestly. I just know
You
that
don't know
they
how your
pretty much.
parents met?
I mean, hopefully over a lovely pork dinner. I don't
That's how they started. Pex, sponsored by Pex Barbecue.
No, yeah. So I mean, they've just been there, of course, my whole life. Like we sort of Stanton, but my entire existence is just all Stanton at this point, until I moved out of Stanton. But we can get into that.
Okay. And I mean, it's mentioned on the last podcast I did with Kara Piles.
Hmm.
It's not like the biggest town. It's obviously it's not like a ghost town, but it's got a nice small downtown, like that nice antique shops and like those like really nice little breakfast places, stuff like that. It's cute. I mean, it's not big. It's not like you're
Yeah.
going to like Richmond or even it's bigger than Charlottesville.
You
But
think? I mean, in terms of population, I wouldn't say it is. I mean,
I mean, you would
probably,
know better than I would.
yeah, Stanton is like a magical place. And please to all my friends, because I have friends who still live in Stanton and they, have families now and all that stuff. But for me, it's always Stanton would be a great place for me to retire because a lot of the
Mhm.
stuff there, like antiquing and like they like to fluff up the history, which to me is they seem to oversell like actually what happened or what it's nice. I really love Stanton. It made me who I am, and maybe someday I'll move back there, but probably not anytime soon.
I guess you didn't go too far away for college because you went to JMU, correct?
I didn't, to be fair. So if I've always used this in job interviews and things, but pretty much all of my life I've lived in Virginia. I've lived in Stanton, I lived in Harrisonburg, I lived in Northern Virginia. I now live in Charlottesville, so basically just sort of doing a round trip of Virginia at this point. I think I liked being close to Stanton. I don't know why. I mean, I really like JMU as well, and it's not too far. I mean, I also worked still while I was in college at home in my parents' restaurant, so I was able to do that as well. And I don't know, I just always like the closeness of being at home, but not actually being there, just like
Hmm.
knowing that it's relatively close to me. And I had friends in Harrisonburg as well. So
Question. I didn't even think about this, but this is a good comparison. I don't think I mean, I've had friends whose parents have had restaurants, but not until this
mhm.
moment. Is there like a Bob's Burger type vibe?
Oh, absolutely. I just looked and there weren't any recent episodes for me to watch. Yes, if you haven't worked in honestly, if you haven't worked in a customer service environment, I feel it truly has honed my ability to do what I do now, which is like IT customer support in a way. But yeah, you will meet the nicest and possibly craziest people you've ever met working in an establishment like that. And they're really good people, maybe not the most upstanding citizens in our community, but they will work damn hard to help keep this business afloat like a single restaurant. It's not like a chain, it's just a one stop shop. And yeah, I'm really glad I worked there because I feel like I learned a lot about customer service and my time there, which I use even now.
And just to remind you, this is a family podcast, so please refrain from
Wait, did I
using
say a curse
profanity.
word?
Uh, no, you said dang.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
just messing
Sorry.
with you. Uh, but
Sometimes they sprinkle in there, so it's just
yeah, no, it's fine. It kind of spices up stuff. You mentioning that kind of maybe touches on to I usually don't bring this out of the podcast this early. I usually hit it at the end, but your Enneagram is a type 9, which is my wife, which is kind of like they call it the peacekeeper, bending over backwards. You're trying to appease people, and sometimes you sacrifice your comfort. But I mean, nines are, it says accepting, trusting, stable. creative,
Nice.
optimistic, supportive. But the main thing is to keep the peace. Like, for example, the biggest debate ever between couples. Where do you want to go to eat? Would you say
Oh,
that you would sacrifice for that?
probably. I think it's more for me is like I don't even want to continue this conversation where we just kind of teeter totter so much. Like, oh, do you want this? Do you want that? What about this? Does this sound good? It's like I just want to figure it out. Like, I don't, at the end of the day, like
Yeah.
if I maybe eat something I'm not like a big fan of, I'll still get something I generally like. But yes, I will generally sacrifice, hopefully for the greater good.
So that's what I bring it up for the type 9, just because you're saying you've worked in the restaurant business forever. So the main reason you push towards that and maybe why you're type 9.
Yeah, I think I look at myself as an introvert, and I think that may surprise people sometimes. I mean, if you grew up and sort of saw who I was in like middle school, or I'm very different than who I would be now. But experiences like that, working in food service, I mean, you were pretty much talking to nice people and not nice people pretty much throughout as the day goes on.
And do you think that same type 9, I guess, theme, you wanted to do computer science? Did you, like, going into college, did you kind of have that drive to want to do that?
Yeah, so computer science traditionally is that programmer, sitting at a computer writing code, and that's what I pretty much did during my college time. I think I got burnt out on that. It's sort of the tail end of like the harder like 400 level courses that I don't know, I basically took that customer service experience and I took that computer knowledge and I, just adapted into support. And that's the nice thing about computer science, pretty broad area to kind of find something. Like you can do security, you can do networking, you can do support. Like, support's sort of naturally was the skills that I learned and the skills that I have honed and I'm now like really good at just in terms of helping people.
That works on many levels then. Because, like it
Yeah.
said before, it's kind of supportive. You're kind of trying to keep the peace, where this is kind of like hands off.
Yeah.
Like you're between a computer. The computer is who you're having problems with, and you don't
Yeah.
really need
Yeah.
to worry about that.
Yeah.
In high school, what was the notion of being gay?
Growing up in Stanton was kind of interesting, especially, I mean, in high school and college, I was pretty much in the closet, like up until after that. I think I don't know if the resources were there and I just didn't really know where to look. As like a closeted queer person, you do a lot of internalizing, like you analyze and you probably, and what I did is just overanalyzed, the whole situation. I think I probably focused on like what the worst outcome would be in terms of like coming out or being that person. I just kind of like hiding it internally as you sort of grow up. So if there's anything I ever really regret is I wish I would have figured that out a little sooner. I wouldn't change anything because it made me who I am now, like just doing it when I did it and I felt comfortable. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of straight people in Stanton. There's a lot of straight people in Virginia. Virginia is a kind of interesting, like red state, blue state. Like,
Hmm.
blue, we're now red again. It's just kind of the way the wind blows. I know Stanton just opened their first LGBTQ center, which I think is
That's
amazing.
awesome.
So, there's progress even in, Stanton is a place that is history and is, to me is leaning an older generation. I wish I would have had that resource then. Who knows if I actually would have even pushed myself out to even go get that. That's the thing I think about too, is my personality. Would I even have taken that step to go find the people that could help me? So I think I got very lucky and we can talk about that a little bit, but I don't think Stan hindered my journey. It just kind of
Hmm.
was me living in the place that I was and figuring out who I was.
If there was more, I wouldn't say role models, but I guess other like examples, like maybe that would have kind of helped you a little bit more.
I don't know. It's like, would I have acted different if there was like a couple that walked down the street? I don't know. Even if I probably saw it, I think I'd be so like reserved in my own sort of personality because you build it up as such this like negative, like, I mean, to me, it was like, it's going to be this big negative reaction. So I don't even want to like remotely think about it, deal with that, just kind of put that on the back burner, live my life. So I don't know. I don't think it would have made a difference just because of me would have held me back from that.
Hmm.
Because I am an introvert, those things about being peacekeeper, I wouldn't want to disrupt anything, even for my own personal happiness.
What was it like when you first came out to, let's say, your parents and your sister?
So my parents were like last, which is like,
No,
you know,
that totally makes sense because I mean they have the
yeah,
biggest impact on your life.
yes, and I think you know, that's really like the pillar that would have hurt the hardest. You know, I think coming out to my friends who, you know, luckily I met people like you and the Pileses, etc. You know, they were like my secondary family. Like they, I mean, I have other friends too. You know, I just am shutting out.
So I was talking to Craig the other day, and he was telling me that you had come out to him at the Lewis Beach, and
Oh,
he was like, "That's cool, man. Doesn't change anything between us." And I was like, "That is such a good thing to say, Craig,
oh
especially with
yeah.
you being hammered." He said he was completely obliterated.
Honestly, social influence, alcohol, anything that helps kind of lubricate a situation. Sorry, that's a horrible thing to
No,
say.
no,
You know, it's just
it's
I
very
took
true.
advantage of those situations because I almost wow, I haven't even thought about those for so long because they feel so long ago at this point. But yes, I definitely took advantage of those being a little
Yeah, in an
so
inebriated state. Yeah, I
yes,
totally get
inebriate.
it.
I was like, what's the professional word? I don't want to
I
like
assume you
just
didn't do that with your parents, though.
no, no. And that's what I think made it even harder, even still, when I think back at like, you know, it's just, I vividly remember sitting in a living room and just kind of feeling it come to a head and really wanting to, you know, do it. And it was totally fine. Very same sentiment, you know. I think my sister had sort of blazed a trail a little bit in terms of that because she had done it prior. And that's why I don't know why I didn't even think about that originally. I mean, it's like that didn't even matter to me. It still was like this darkness of dealing with it personally.
Is your sister younger or older?
She is older by 2 years.
Oh, okay. I was about to say if she
So
was younger.
so I don't know why I was so worried because it's already sort of happened and my, you know, my parents dealt with it in a way then. And, you know, I think the biggest thing, especially with parents or people not in your generation or even people in your generation, you know, I think you just have to kind of give them the space to, there are people who are very unlucky. Like they tell their parents and they kick them out because of reasons that I will never understand. I can never explain. You know, I hope people get more lucky to have people who maybe need time and space to understand. It doesn't mean, you know, at face value, they will understand when you tell them. It's just they will naturally take the time to sort of understand that, you know, you are still the person you are before, after, and it's just a better way for you to live your best life. Yeah, that's my biggest hope. I got very lucky with the friends and the family that I have in that moment. So it really was like a washing away of all of that negative spirit.
I guess I've never heard the story. And it's like one of
Yeah.
those conversations, like you would say, that people have to be lubricated to have
Yeah.
like those questions with. So you
Yeah.
didn't really have any like horrible
Not
stories with that.
really. You know, there's probably tertiary people that I went to high school with, or like, you know, but the people that I talk to regularly, the people that I would see, you know, those are the people I wanted to know. I don't care what people I don't see anymore know and if they support it. And they probably don't. Like, you know, I deleted Facebook a long time ago for so many reasons, really kind of including that one because I don't want to like live this sort of digital fantasy life where I don't really be myself on my own page because if you don't understand like or you don't agree like and I also don't want those opinions, you know. I maybe I'm putting myself in sort of a bubble, but I see no value add there. So maybe those people don't care or you know or have difference, but the people that I you know work through my little like list and letting people know back then, you know, they didn't care, and I'm so grateful for that.
Well, just a note on the Facebook thing. I saw that you got back on Instagram, which I'm very grateful for. And the people I honestly like your content that you used to have, like it was spot on. I like all the dog posts, but you would have other stuff that was good. And I'm sorry that that made you uncomfortable and you got off because I thought you're one of those few people where you see the bubble and you want to
Yeah.
click on it. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, that's nice.
I want to see the content and then you kind of dropped off and obviously
Yeah,
that's fine.
I think there was social media. I was like big into social media. Like I was on the invite only Facebook back in the day. Like when you had to have a college university ID, I used my community college email address at the
You're
time to
you're
sign up.
close with the Zuck. That's what you're trying to tell
Oh,
me?
absolutely. Oh God, no. And I would post, my Twitter would be posted, every like thought or emotion. I had a blog, before blogs, a Zanga, any outlet that you could have, but I think there's a huge, I now think of that person and like how happy go lucky he was about all of this information on the internet. And I am not that person anymore. My Instagram is barely anything I did post or like the stories that go away, because it's just me either having fun with a recipe or like just literally gabbing about something that's driving me crazy. So
I
yeah,
want to hear
everything
that though.
that will be there. I still like to do that, and the interesting circle that I've remade with people who I haven't talked to in a long time. But a lot of people don't actually even post on Instagram. It's just like I think they just like to look at other people's who do post, because social media I have learned is, even at its private privacy, it's still out there. It's someone's data. Facebook is making money off of you. I'm so sorry to break it to you.
We're sorry, Facebook.
You will probably not have a Facebook sponsorship after this episode.
Okay, I'll take the hit. I'll do Squarespace, Mailchimp.
Perfect. I love Squarespace. Super easy UI.
And yeah, didn't you use that for? I'll plug it right now. Peck's
Oh my God.
Barbecue, right off 81. If you're headed from Roanoke North or you're headed down from DC, try Peck's Barbecue
Nice.
in
Thank
Stanton,
you.
Virginia. There you go. There's.
I know you want to segue to the website, which I actually did not make on Squarespace. I actually coded that on my own. It kind of helped me
I
do
swear
like to
I
lean
saw it
into
at the
that.
bottom though. I swear I saw it.
I did.
It was done by.
No,
Squarespace.
it says I took like the background image from a different from a website where you have to give them like a shout out, and it's been there for years. I have no idea. Hopefully that I haven't even clicked on that link. I hope that website's still not something horrible. Anyway.
Okay, let me wrap this up with the stuff that I usually say. I already gone over your Enneagram type 9. How do you think the environment that you were provided and you kind of grew into, not just, I guess, in Stanton, but through like JMU and I guess your friends, how do you think that shaped you into, I guess, the person you are today?
There was a time where I was so introverted to a point that I wouldn't really talk to anyone. I mean, maybe that's where that social media part was kind of my outlet in terms of social interaction, but you're really just kind of pushing that sort of outward. I think set up, I was able to kind of push out of that in a way, meet people who I still keep up with, interact with, and, ultimately being able to live sort of who I am without any sort of regrets, even with my parents understanding. I think I just got really lucky. There are a lot of stories about people who do not get lucky, and I feel for those people, but I can only share my experience and really just hope that that becomes less of a thing in the future. So I feel lucky that I was able to kind of grow up, and the experiences that I had, maybe they weren't perfect. I think no family is perfect. I spent a lot of time thinking that there was like this nuclear family image that all families, you have to be a good, perfect family, but that doesn't exist. I'm sorry. It's just not reality. Everyone has their own problems and issues. And to me, my coming out was a very big part of me, but it's, not the biggest thing that's ever happened. So I'm just glad to have made it through.
Okay, I like it. So the last and final question I like to ask that usually gets some interesting responses. What is something that your parents did that you would like to pass on? And what is something you try to avoid if you do have kids?
I like the question. I think, I sort of touched on one part earlier about people have images in their head about how their life's going to go. And then you throw a complete wrench in there. Obviously, it's not going to be what they imagine, but I really hope that, what I would give to someone is having space to understand something that maybe wasn't what I would have imagined, because, you can't strive for perfection. So I would try to just be as understanding as I could and really support as much as you can. I think I was very lucky as well to, grow up in a pretty middle class kind of family. I mean, we weren't very well off or, like lived in the mansions of some of the people I went to public school with, but it was still like a very supportive environment. And I think at a minimum, that's what you have to give your kids or anyone around you, is just support them and help them and talk to them, understand them.
Okay. It was a positive and a negative. What was something that you would?
Ooh, I have to tell this story, then I'll say a negative. When I was in high school, one of my like friends, older brothers, super nice guy. He was like a few years older than all of us, but he would like hang out every once in a while. And he was like the first person who like had a kid, like, and I was probably like early 20s, I don't know. And we were like hanging out at his house, like beer, and I was like, how is it? Like, what is it like? And we would always have these sort of deep conversations. And I was just like, what is it like having a kid now? Like, do you feel different? Like, I always imagined there was like an adult like light switch you turn on and you're an adult now. Like, and now you have to do adult things like, you buy a home and I don't know, whatever. And he's like, it's no different. Like, I'm still the same person I was yesterday, even now there's just a child, needing my attention. And you can probably, we can talk about that on your episode, but it really, that was kind of the, it's a silly sort of story that was just, I think about, and I think that, parents do as well as they can. I don't know if I wish I wouldn't have imagined this family that I wanted to obtain when it really wasn't there. They did what they needed to do to get me where I am. And, I'm very thankful for that. I think I just imagined this different scenario of like a 60s sitcom of like, pot roast. And I don't know where that even came from, but it just felt so like ingrained to the point that then you realize that they are people. They have issues. They have things they have to work through, but they're, you just got to do your best.
Well, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to be here.
If you like this week's episode of People More Interesting Than Me, please follow me on Apple Podcasts so you won't miss out on more episodes like these.